Welcome to the Investor Agent Show. I'm your host, Sarah Weaver. I am going to deep dive into how to analyze deals with confidence, how to find off-market deals, and how to grow an investor-focused real estate sales business. In How to Find Off-Market Deals Part 1, I shared 5 ways to find off-market deals, and so many of you reached out to me about how those 5 ways are exactly how you are finding off-market deals. On today's show, I'm going to share 4 more ways to find off-market deals. If you are a real estate agent, you have to go where the investors are hanging out. And that brings me to tip number 1 to finding off-market deals: in-person meetups. If you are a real estate agent wanting to serve real estate investors, you have to go where real estate investors are hanging out. That's why you go to things like the BiggerPockets forums, and that's why one of the 5 ways to find off-market deals that I shared was social media. That's where investors hang out. But now, I want you to put away your phone and I want you to go somewhere in person. Depending on what part of the country you live in, there may be 2 or 22 local in-person meetups that you can attend, but I recommend starting small. If you go to a meetup once and then you go to 5 other meetups, but you never are a repeat attendee, people may not remember you. You could make the best impression, but if you aren't consistently attending the meetup, people aren't going to remember your name, remember that they liked you, and then of course, learn how to trust you. Don't overload your calendar. I don't recommend trying to go to every single meetup every single week. Instead, what I recommend doing is choosing 2 meetups that you can commit to going to consistently. But it's important that while you're there, you're looking for ways to add value to those around you. Don't go to a meetup and say, I'm an agent, I'm an agent, I'm an agent. We know, Steve, you're an agent. Instead, I recommend being very specific. You can stand up and say that you're looking for a deal, but you have to be specific. So you could say something like, I have an investor who's paying all cash and they're looking for a single family in this area of town or this particular zip code. And you never know, you might find a deal this way. Even if you're an introvert, I highly recommend going to in-person meetups. They could just be the missing piece to your real estate sales business. And that brings me to tip number 2, wholesalers. Now, wholesalers can get a bad rap, but I know a real estate agent in Kansas City who's making great deals by building relationships with wholesalers. Now, what is wholesaling? For the sake of this video, I'm not gonna go too much in detail on how to wholesale. There's great resources on BiggerPockets for that. But for finding off-market deals, wholesalers could be one of your greatest assets. They're out there looking for deals constantly. And yes, they're gonna stack on an extra fee so that they make money. That's how they make money. But a great deal could include that fee. So I recommend, if you're a real estate agent, build relationships with wholesalers in your market, because you never know when they could be the one emailing you your next deal. Tip number 3 is property managers. That's right. You should build relationships with property managers. Property managers could be the unspoken hero of you growing your real estate sales business. Listen up. Property managers know more landlords than most any of us. Their job is to manage properties. It's in the name. So therefore, they likely have a large portfolio of rental properties and have a lot of real estate investor clients. They're typically the first one to hear when a landlord wants to sell or offload one of their properties. Now, I can already hear you. You're probably saying, okay, that's great, Sarah, but property managers are also licensed. Absolutely. A lot of property managers hold their real estate license. So your second question is, okay, well, if they are licensed, then why wouldn't they just turn around and sell and list the property themselves? Absolutely. I agree with you. That is possible. But here's the thing. If you can position yourself as the go-to investor-friendly real estate agent in your market, you can give property managers a few things. 1, you can offer them a referral fee. If they're also licensed and they refer you a possible seller, they can get a piece of your commission. If you do this enough times, they're gonna gladly keep sending you deals. And number two, if they're a great property manager, that's what they're focused on. They're focused on managing properties. They're not really worried about building a real estate sales business as well. That's where you come in. They can stay in their lane and you both can do what you do best. They manage the property and you facilitate the buy or sell of a property. And here's the thing, you can tell them, I work with hundreds of real estate investors and they're always asking me for a great property manager. And I think that that's you. I want to send you more business because you want to manage more units, right? In order to do that, I need you to send me deals so I can sell them to my investors. When they do, you won't run the risk of losing out on that property, and that way you can keep it under management as well. One of the things about being an investor-friendly agent is creating win-win scenarios, and that's exactly what you do when you pair up with a great property manager. Now, I'm gonna leave you with tip number 4, cold callers. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to pick up the phone. You can actually hire a cold caller. What's great is that there's companies out there that have trained cold callers so that you don't have to have an inside sales agent or an ISA on staff. Instead, you can hire a trained cold caller to cold call for you. Now, wait, what is cold calling? Here's the thing, cold callers will call homeowners to see if they're willing to sell their house to you or your client. It's a strategy that I highly recommend you use. Let me know in the comment if it's something that you're already doing. If you cannot tell, I love cold calling. Why? Because it's actually how I found my first 2 listings as a real estate agent. I opened Craigslist, looked at for sale by owners, and I just hit the phone. I was calling seller after seller after seller, seeing if they wanted help not to list their property, but to sell their property. And that's exactly what I did. My very first listing was an investment property that I sold in 4 days, all cash. And ever since then, I've been hooked. Those are the 4 ways or 4 additional ways to find off-market deals. Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Agent Show. I'm your host, Sarah Weaver. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Sarah D. Weaver and hit subscribe. See you next time.